Now, you all have been bugging me to death to do a Jimmy Buffett song, and I'm giving it to you right now. So this is Come Monday. It's really a pretty song. It's really a very well written song. I love it. I'm not a big Jimmy Buffett fan normally. I couldn't tell you, I couldn't sing a verse of Cheeseburger in Paradise to save my life. But I remember Margaritaville because I used to play 6 nights a week in a club called the Embers Inn in Lexington, Kentucky, and that song was on the jukebox like every night. I just remember it was a hit at that time, and this was somewhere around 75, 1975, 76, and along with Willie Nelson's Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. That was around the time that was a big hit. And I didn't know who Jimmy Buffett was. I just remember that song because, when I first heard the song, it was very recognizable, but I didn't know how big he would become, and how renowned a songwriter he is. And I think he's written several books. And anyway, so with this one, we're doing a G with no second finger. We're muting the fifth string with our third finger by just sort of leaning on it. Lean on and then you want to keep fingers 1 and 2 for making a C chord with the G in the bass. So you're keeping the G in the bass from the G chord, and then adding fingers 1 and 2. It's a really nice sounding chord. Isn't that pretty? It's like. So the strum is down, up, down, down, up, down. And then you're going to do some single note picking. Down, up, sorry, I missed the string. Down, up, down, up, down. So in slow motion, it's down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. We'll try it again with up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. Yeah, it is kind of hard to strum that chord and then make sure your pick is hitting the second string open. It's real easy to miss and accidentally hit the first string or the third string, but that's what you want to go for. Try to go for it. On the actual song, I think there's, I remember hearing when I was trying to figure it out, there were probably 2 guitars on the track. And one of them was, I think, it sounded like some light finger picking. So we're kind of imitating some finger picking here. And it might have been, doing, with the fingers. And so it's not exactly like what they're doing on the record. But this is the first song that I'm giving you with chord changes that are not watered down. All the different rhythms, the variety of rhythms, are all written out in the tablature. And so you'll have mostly this down, up, down, down, up, down. In the verse, instead of down, up, down, down, we're doing down, up, down, up, down, up. That's a little lighter than down, up, down, down. Because usually down, up, down, down, you're going to accent, put a kick right where that tie is in the rhythm. So you have 4 eighth notes tied into 2 more eighth notes, and that's where you get that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Or in the verse, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4. It's kind of a calypso rhythm, like island music. And that Jimmy Buffett, he's Florida Keys. He's an island kind of guy. So anyway, and then after you finish the second line, remember on the tablature sheet, the second line is repeated. And just that line, you just go back and repeat that second line. And then when it goes into A minor, we're changing the rhythm. So we're going from, and then suddenly it's different. The last measure of the first page is really tricky, but it's actually not that hard to play. You're doing a D chord, and then you're going down, up, down, and then on the upstroke, let go of the D chord, put your pinky on the 3rd fret of the 1st string, and it's like the high notes of a G chord, but you're not fingering the whole G chord. You're just going D, pinky, and then move your pinky 2 frets from 3 to the 5th fret, and then your first finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and your 3rd finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the 3rd string. And you go up, down, actually on that. So it's still got the tie. You're doing the tie right where you do that pinky G chord. So it's down, up, down. So it's a little bit tricky to go 2 frets and suddenly grab these notes, if you're not familiar with this shape. This is a different inversion of a D7th chord. See, this is a D7 that we commonly learn. This is the first one we learn. And then this is just a higher voicing of that same chord. That's all it is. So you're going from D, D major, not D7th, but D major, G, D7. Okay? So that's going to be in the song twice later on in the second page. And then when you go to the G chord, now we're going to do a full G, but we're going to use the pinky on the 1st string, the 2nd finger in the bass, and the 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. Normally you do probably 3rd and 2nd fingers, but we're doing 2nd and 1st finger because we're going to use the 1st finger to pivot the hand. So you're going to pivot the hand and bar for this B minor 7th. Now that's a jazz chord. It's kind of a pretty jazz chord. It's a lot of songs will have B minor, and that's when you have the pinky. That's a regular B minor. Take the pinky off, and you've got B minor 7th. It's kind of a hard bar because you really have to bar 5 strings, and your 1st finger is sounding the 1st string and the 3rd string and the 5th string. It's real easy for that 3rd string to get choked if you're not pressing your bar really well. Plus you have to really pivot into this chord. So you have the G chord with pinky, 1st finger, 2nd finger, pivoting into the B minor with the 1st finger barred, and then the 2nd and 3rd fingers like that. So it's really a pretty quick chord change, and it's right after you did these other kind of bizarre chord changes. And then G, B minor 7, C, and actually, and then D, C, half note, D, half note, and then just like the intro. Okay, so I'll do that again slowly. You got it. we go into A major seventh. Now that's a nice jazz chord, a major seventh. You wouldn't think somebody like Jimmy Buffett would know this chord, but he did, And anyway, if you remember the common fingering for D7, this is just like that, except you move across the street. You move it over one string, and you've got A major seventh. Use your third finger as a guide to get you into the D chord each time, and then also as a guide from D back to A major seventh. So you'll shift that third finger like that. And here's this section. And notice I'm going down, up, down, down. And that gives it a little bit more of a kick, than down, up, down, up. And they're both good strums, but depends on what kind of sound you want. And then after you do that several times, you've got C, and then D, and then that D, G, D7, and then a full bar F. And so far in the books, and this is second book level, we haven't had a full bar chord like this. We've had F with 4 strings and Peggy Sue, but this is like an E chord. So if you took an E chord, like a regular E chord, like the one you did in Peggy Sue, and instead of fingering it like with second, third, and first fingers, finger it with third, fourth, and second fingers, and then move it 1 fret higher, adding your first finger for a bar. So you've got first, third, fourth, second, first, first. So your first finger's barring all the way across all 6 strings. And it's not a real difficult bar chord, but it's a little more advanced. That's why we're introducing this in the later part of the second book. And so you have the F, and then the C, and then the G. Now, in the actual song, you have the intro, which is, and then you have the verse, and then he repeats the verse. When I played it in the beginning of the lesson, I didn't repeat the verse, but in the actual song, usually you'd have 2 normal verses before you go into what we call the bridge, and that's where the A major seventh is. You'd have 2 verses, a bridge, and then at the end of the bridge, you have 2 measures of G, and then you go back to a verse. And then he would do the last verse and then end song. But so we kind of condensed it a little bit on 2 pages. But I'm going to play it one more time slowly so that you can maybe follow me, because doing it up to speed, just make sure you practice something new like this. Slow, walk before you run, right? I've said that many times. So I'll do it about that slow. Ready, go, and up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. I missed it. I got it that time. Verse. 7th. Use your third finger as a guide. C. Then we're ended on G. You just got to go ahead and end it. And before those last two measures, you would have a repeat sign back to the verse, and you'd sing another verse before ending it. The bridge is only done once in the song, and he's singing through the first part of the bridge, and then there's I think violins and pedal steel guitar. It's really pretty. Yeah, that's a pretty bridge in that song. But that's Come Monday, Jimmy Buffett. Don't say I never gave you a Jimmy Buffett song, okay? All right.